Perfecte. Molt bé, merci. Hi.
My sign now because
Yeah, sure.
I have to take the train to the University.
Yes,
So
I'm with yourself.
you have pen?
Oh, yes.
Okay. It was okay. Talk to the secretary to put your name.
Okay. I have not talked with her, but okay, just do it that way, and I will talk with her later.
Because I asked for the last day. But then I see how it was. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Sí, sí, sí. Hola, hola. Hello. Hola, hola, hola. Okay, it works. Okay. Wow. Okay. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is it okay if I leave 15 minutes before the classes?
No problem. You can sign it here if you want.
Yeah. And for the next two sessions that I'm gonna skip because I will be at the conference, do we need to have a meeting or how?
Oh yeah, maybe if you want, yeah, we can.
Okay.
We can meet just one moment to ask you to see that you have followed the session. Okay.
Good.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon. individualment es pot fer, cap problema.
Estic una mica lluny.
No, no, cap problema.
Clar, és particular, sí, jo m'imagino, però normalment no seguiré aquí, seguiré allà.
Qui tens de director?
Francesc Teixidor.
Hòstia, saludau.
Llavors, primer en francès. I cites educataris.
Hosti, molt bé.
Encargolants.
Li vaig dir, nosaltres fem càlculs de separació de compost de separació de càrrega, estats excitats, aquest tipus de coses. Dic, si vols, ja quedarem un dia per parlar. Ja estem fent coses junts.
Perquè jo ara hem vist un article d'un i bueno, farem els càlculs fets,
Sí.
però vull dir que fem molt d'això, fem fotocatalis i estem trobant molt bé. És fotocatalis submenuquós i sí. Molt bé. Clar, jo me'n dedico a la part química, a la part experimental. Sí. I nosaltres treballem en carburants i de tot tipus. I bueno, això el que jo estic fent és com nou perquè vaig començar la sèrie en algo que ells no feien abans. I ara... Bueno, si tu el veus, alguna vegada t'he vist allà, em sembla, que alguna vegada t'he vist a l'Institut de Ciències Materials que vas parlar amb francès. Pues ja li diré perquè el dilluns torno a casa, torno allà, perquè encara que vindré dimecres perquè hi ha més curs i tindré que venir a fer coses aquí al departament, però vull dir, ja li diré, el dilluns a les 7. Si tinc cas qualsevol cosa, si necessitem. Sí. Vale, molt bé. Sí, no, ja fa temps, és que ja porto 3 anys allà.
Okay, maybe we should start. You think we can start now? We were yesterday at this point, so we discussed the results, and now next is about to talk about the discussion, the part of the discussion of the results. And this is, let's say, the place where one interprets the results. So here you can put your hypotheses, you can make also speculations, and because of that, it is possible that this leads to controversy with other scientists, because with the same results, someone can have a different interpretation, right? So the results cannot be discussed in science. In principle, they are reproducible, so you can get the same results in any part of the world, let's say. Yeah? But the discussion, this is something that is more personal. And here, I mean, so in some cases, some controversy can be found. Okay, this is an example, I mean, of what I mean about the interpretation. This is extracted from chemistry again, but okay, let me explain it more or less simple way. So these are two possible reactants, let's say, this one and this one, 2L and 2B. And if you oxidize, what you expect is that there is an oxidation in this position, so you get one oxygen more, you see, you have 3 oxygens here and here you have 4. This is a process of oxidation, adding more oxygen to the molecule. Right? In the other molecule, you have two possibilities, so you have either the oxidation here could occur here or could occur here. You see, it occurs always in the double bond, but in the case there is only one possible position, apparently, and in this case you have two positions. Anyway, this is more or less the idea. The authors does this reaction using a palladium as a catalyst, and what they obtain is they start from 2L and they obtain these two products, right? And these are the result. The result is I start from here and I obtain here. This is unexpected. This is something that it was not expected by them, so they have to interpret these results. And what they do is to use what is called, well, some of you know, but maybe many of you probably not, is what is called the Curtin-Hammett principle. They use the Curtin-Hammett principle, and they say, okay, there is an equilibrium between these two, and this equilibrium is displaced to this product, to this reactant here, and then this is the one that reacts and gives these two products. Okay, but this is an interpretation. They do not prove that there is this equilibrium. It's just an interpretation of the result. So what is not interpretable is the result. You start from here, you oxidize with palladium, and you get this complex here, right? This is something that cannot be interpreted. This is simply what it happens. And then there is the interpretation. Okay, this is because there is an equilibrium which is displaced to, uh, to, to this position, and then there is this one that reacts and gives these two products. Yeah? Okay, so maybe, I mean, this is something that the authors didn't prove. They didn't find this equilibrium constant, these rate constants, or this rate constants. It's something that they do not, were unable to find these values. However, I mean, in that way they could explain the result. So it was not proof, but it's an interpretation. They interpreted this, what occurred here, using this Curtin-Hammett principle. Maybe there are other interpretations. This is probably the most, I mean, from a chemical point of view, is the most wise, or the one that could be expected. So I think it's okay to provide this interpretation, but it should be clear that this is just an interpretation. And what I mean by interpretation, this is an example that you will understand very rapidly. I mean, this is from 2016, one of this El Periódico, you see, and they ask if different Catalan people if they won a referendum or not. So 49% they answered they won the referendum, no matter what the central government thinks. 35 they say, okay, we won a referendum, but only if it is an agreement with the central government. And then 50% they say we don't want a referendum. And what the El Periódico did, they compared this one with the sum of these two. And they say, okay, the referendum split the Catalan in two parts, right? But okay, there is this another interpretation. Exactly the same results. The results cannot be changed. But the interpretation is totally different. If you sum those that won an agreement, a referendum, irrespective if you have agreement or not with central government, plus those that won a referendum, if there is agreement, you sum these two and this gives 84% compared to this 30%. So you see, I mean, it's simply, I mean, it's exactly the same results, but interpreted in different way. Yeah, so this is something that it can happen also in science. Maybe the same result can be interpreted from different points of view. And okay, this of course generates controversy in some cases, but it's fine. It's not a problem. As far as you discuss politely, without personal attacks, controversy is fine, no problem. It also helps to science advancement. So, okay, no problem. Okay, so discussion. So we have, in the discussion, we have to provide answers to the following questions. What did the results mean and why did they come as they did? In answering this question, usually we'll be comparing your work to the finding of others. So this is important. This gives credibility to your work also. You have some results, but for sure there are other scientists that have done something similar in some cases. In some cases could be different, but okay, there is for sure there is some results that you can compare with. And so it's good to compare your findings with findings of other people. So again, very important to read previous work. So to read takes time, but it's something that has to be done. And another important thing in the discussion is that you have to make the paper come the full circle. And this means that we have, in the introduction, we have made a question, remember? We want something that we have to answer. And now is the moment that we answer our question. So we have a hypothesis, and now here we say, okay, our results prove or disprove this hypothesis. This is what we have to do here. And if we do not do that, if the discussion does not relate to this important point, so what you have, the challenge that you have discussed in the introduction, the question that you want to answer, if the discussion does not relate to this question, does not answer this question, the paper loses its ability to convince and to summarize within a specific context. It's something that we have to keep in mind. We have a question, and at the end, we have to finish the discussion by answering this question. And in that way, you have this full circle. Okay, so other things that we can maybe comment on the discussion. So the discussion look to present, so what we have to do is to look at to present the principles, relationships, and generalization as evidenced in the results. Remember, the point of the discussion is to discuss the results, not to recapitulate the results, not to repeat again the results. The results have been already described in the previous section, and now we want to discuss what these results mean and what are the implications from these results and how these results answer the question that we make in the introduction. This is what we do in the discussion, not to recapitulate again the results. So point out any exceptions, limitations, or any lack of correlation. Never try to cover up data that do not fit. Let's suppose you have some point that it's a little bit far from your correlation or whatever, and any limitation or any weakness of your study. Doesn't matter. You have it, you discuss it. Say, okay, in this particular case, the result was not as expected for this reason, the other reason, I don't know. Maybe you know the reason, maybe you make a hypothesis of why this point is not, does not correlate as you expected. Emphasize exceptions and contradictions as well as agreements with work of others. Okay, we have discussed, we have commented this point. So this means that you have to read what has been published till now related to your problem, and then you have to compare and emphasize similarities and differences. Okay. So in that way, by comparing with previous results, you can bring significant strength to the manuscript. It's good. When you read a good paper, you see that the author has read everything, and then he or she makes the necessary comparisons with previous results, and this is something that is it give credibility to the paper. State your conclusions as clearly as possible and based on the data of the paper. And this is something that we have to take into account. Also, many discussion sections suffer badly from reporting what an author knows about the topic versus what the data actually support. So we know some theories, we have some preconceptions, some ideas, and sometimes we want our results fit these ideas, but they do not. So we don't have to force them. I mean, if they do not fit with our previous preconceptions, then simply we should state that, not force our discussion to the things that we know before, because maybe in this case, I don't know, but it could be that there are some things that do not do not agree with previous theories or something like that. So speculation should be clearly stated. It's not a problem. You can speculate. Maybe, I don't know, this result is because temperature was too high, I don't know. Anything. You can speculate. Maybe you don't know the reason exactly, but you can make a speculation. Maybe it's because the solvent was and not was, I don't know, was benzene and not water, I don't know. Anyway, you can make a speculation, but should be clearly stated. So it's not, it should be clearly, for the reader, it should be clear that this is something that you make a hypothesis. Maybe this is the problem or whatever. But it's nothing that has been demonstrated. So if it is a speculation, it should be clear that it is a speculation. And as such, should be clearly stated as such, unlimited but not omitted. You can you can make speculations, no problem, but it should be clearly stated. And it's good to finish maybe with suggestions for future or additional research. If you want to finish with that, you can also leave this to the conclusion section. But also in the discussion, if you want, you can say, I don't know, this work has studied this, but it is necessary to know more about something. This is something that you will do in the future or other people will do. Okay, so remember, results and discussion, they can come together, at least in our case. In chemistry is usually the case, but it can also be separated, so it depends on the author. And you see I put here, analyze the results and discussion section of a paper of your group, so I probably leave this to you at home if you want to take the results and discussion of the paper you have chosen and see if more or less these advices are fulfilled or obeyed or not. Or you have something that could be better presented in the results or better discussed in the discussion section. Okay. Okay, and now we move to the next part, which is the conclusion. Remember that we have the structure of a paper, so we have discussed the results, the discussion. Now we go to the conclusion, and this is, it should be brief, so something short, and state the significance of the work, the most important findings or applications. Is what in some presentations is called the take-home message, something that the final conclusion, let's say. It has two main functions. First, to summarize and to bring together the main areas covered in the writing, which may be called looking back. So what we have found in our results, what is our conclusion from these results, or how we answer the question that we make in the introduction. This is something that you have to do to summarize the main results and conclusions, but also you can give a final comment or judgment on this. And this means maybe you can state what are the implications of the results, or maybe what are the limitations of the results, or maybe what has to be studied next. This is some things that you can add in your conclusion if you want. All these type of comments are welcome in the discussion. So, during the conclusion, you have to return to the theme or themes in the introduction. This strategy brings your reader full circle. It's what I told you before. You have a question, you have something that you want to study, and now you give the solution. You have already give the solution in the discussion. It's okay. Now you repeat that because this is really relevant. You have a question and final answer to this question should be also given in the conclusions, in the discussion also, but in the discussion, in the conclusions too. So if you begin by describing a scenario, you end with the same scenario as a proof that your work is helpful, creating a new understanding. Include a brief summary of the paper's main points, but don't simply repeat things that were in your paper. It's not just to repeat exactly what you have written in the discussion or in the results or whatever. It's maybe in other words or change a little bit. Propose a course of action, a solution to an issue, or questions for further study. It's what I told you before. If you want to, you can finish the conclusion by proposing further research. Further research should be done to know whether, I don't know, there is something that you think that maybe can be a study in the future. And maybe you can be the one that does this study, or maybe it will be others that do this study. Point to possible limitations. Okay, you have discussed limitations in the discussion, but also here is a good moment to discuss possible limitations by short sentence. But you can discuss limitations here and broader implications of the study. Okay. Avoid unnecessary overused phrase such as in conclusion. So, let's suppose there are many conclusions that, okay, you have the title, conclusion, and then in conclusion, comma, okay, no, it's not necessary. So if the word is not necessary, so just delete it, or in summary, or in closing. You are in the conclusion, so it's not necessary to indicate that you are in the conclusions. However, if you write the communications, for instance, usually the last paragraph is the last used for the conclusions, and then it's okay. Then you can use in summary, or in closing, or in conclusion, whatever. So for communications, we don't have these sections: introduction, methods, and so on. It's just one section, everything. So in this case, it is okay, or it's right to start with in summary. But if you have a section that is conclusions, then it's not necessary to start the first sentence saying in summary or something like that. Do not write conclusion not sufficiently supported by the data presented. So you have a results, you have discussed these results, and from here you reach some conclusion. So this is the conclusions that have to be put here, but not new conclusions, let's say. So here it should be only what you have already discussed before. So do not introduce a new idea or subtopic in the conclusion. If you want to introduce some ideas, they should be already have. I mean, you should do that in the discussion, for instance, or during the results, but usually in the discussion. All ideas you have, you should put them, not in the conclusion. It's not a good place to put a new idea in the conclusion. Do not include evidence, for instance, I don't know, statistics, data, or whatever that should be in the body of the paper, for instance, in the results. It's not, in the conclusion is not the moment. The conclusion is just to summarize the work and discuss possible implications, possible limitations, possible future studies. This is what has to be done in the conclusion. And remember that I told you that there was, in the University of Manchester, there was a phrase bank. It's quite useful. You will see now, you can go there. There are sentences that helps you to, so if we go there, yeah. You will see that, oh yeah, it is here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, now. Okay, this is the website. This is the website of this, of the University of Manchester, and you see you have here, you have for the introduction. This is for the introduction. This is for, let's say, references. This is for describing methods. This is for the results, discussion, and conclusions. And now we are in the conclusions, but you can go to any place. Let's suppose you you are writing the conclusions and, okay, you need some sentences. So you have here several ones. You see, okay, maybe, I don't know, this one here. In this investigation, the aim was to assess, okay, you can start your conclusion using this sentence or any of the sentences here, summarizing main research. The second major finding was that these experiments confirmed that this study was found that generally, so you can use these sentences if you want, suggesting implications. Remember that we say that in some cases you can suggest implications of your work. The current data highlight the importance of the findings of the research provide insights for and so on. There are many sentences here. So it's simply that for you to know that you have sentences here that can help you writing papers. So explaining the significance of findings. The findings will be of interest to the findings reported here shed new light on whatever. This is the largest study so far documenting a delay onset. I don't know. There are many of them. The present study lays the groundwork for future research into. This is for future research, for instance. Recognizing the limitations. Yeah? So a limitation of this study is that the small sample size did not allow. You can have some limitations, maybe. I don't know. The most important limitation lies in the fact that, and so it's a good moment in the conclusions to state possible limitations. Acknowledging limitations. Notwithstanding, while stating a finding or contribution, notwithstanding these limitations, so now you have discussed your limitation and you continue. In spite of these limitations, the study suggests that despite exploratory nature, this study offers some insight into, right? So it's a kind of, okay, you have a limitation, but still your work is worth. This is what you want to mean here. Making recommendations for future research is something that it can go in the conclusions. This would be a fruitful area for further work. Several questions still remain to be answered, and then you describe what remain to be answered. Or, I don't know, further research could be useful, could usefully explore how, or further research should focus on determining, there are many. So simply that is good. And setting out recommendations for practice or policy. I don't know. The challenge now is to fabricate X that contain, or unless government adopt X, Y will not be attained. I don't know. Anyway, so the point is that you have here many sentences that can help you writing papers. You go to the introduction, is the same. There are many. So you have here establishing the importance of the topic. So you have here many sentences. You can choose one of them, simply put your topic there, and little by little you are constructing your introduction, then your methods, and so on, and at the end you have the paper. Okay? So this is a kind of bank of phrases that I find it quite useful. Okay, maybe it's okay. No. Oh no. Let's put ampliar ahora. No. Okay. So let me go. Oh no. Okay, so you have this phrase bank. Now you know that this exists. So you have, should help you to write your papers. Now let's continue. I mean, this is an example of a conclusion. Why I have chosen it? Because I mean, maybe for you, maybe it's difficult to read a little bit, but the point is that this is one of the few conclusions that I have found. Maybe if you, by the way, if you find a strange thing in papers or something like that, please tell me. So I will add new strange situations in the presentation. So this is a conclusion. This is some people, Michael Siransky, Marek Krajgowski, and Krasiski. They are from Poland, and they were collaborating with Paul von Ragge-Slayer. Now, Okay, and they were discussing something about aromaticity. Yeah? As I told you, this is a topic that I am interested in. And the point here is that, okay, I met Michael several times, and he told me in this paper that the paper was finished for something like 1 year or 1 year and a half, and it was not possible to submit the paper because the authors didn't agree with the conclusion. So they were discussing about the conclusion. So at the end, to reach an agreement was simply to have two different conclusions. So, and you see here they say, therefore, Michael, MKC, TM Kai, Marek, and Alan stress again here that fully aromatic systems are those that, and so on and so on. And then, alternatively, one of us, Paul von Rages-Leyer, considers that the special behavior associated, so it was two conclusions. So this is something that is not, I mean, it's the only paper that I have found with the authors that do not agree with the conclusions. But, okay, maybe it was a way to save the paper. So the other way, they couldn't reach an agreement about the conclusion. And they do it that way. It's not bad idea, but anyway, it's strange, let's say. But okay, again, about the interpretation. When you interpret the data is always, the results are the results. But when you interpret the data, in some cases, you, okay, there is disagreement between different people and different groups of research. So, well, these kind of things happen. It's not a problem. It's simply, it has to be solved in some way, and there are these discussions in congresses and this kind of things. Okay, this is something that you have to bear in mind. Most of the audience of your reader will be scanning readers. What means scanning readers? They will read, well, I would put first the title. They will read the title. Then the abstract and the conclusions. Glance at the figures and move on. So, title, abstract, and conclusions are very important parts of the paper, are the most read parts of the paper, especially the title, then the abstract, and finally the conclusions. So take your time to write these parts. And okay, so the people also look at the figures, and then maybe they read the full paper or not, or simply they skip and go for the next one. Okay, maybe we can do this a little bit later. Maybe, I mean, now it's probably, so let's move on a little bit more. Let's continue, and then maybe we can come back to the conclusion, and we can take the paper for 5 minutes, and you discuss if you find in the conclusion of the paper that you have something that could be improved, let's say, or not. But let's see if you find something that could be improved. Okay, and this is more or less, okay, this is a scheme of all possible, let's say, parts. And you see that you have the introduction in blue, then we have in black the results and the discussion in red. And you see the abstract has a little bit of all. I told you. The abstract is a mini version of the paper, so it has to. So you have to have introduction, results, method, results, and discussion. The IMRAD should be in the abstract. So what is the question? This will be the introduction. What we do, this means the method. What we found means the results, and how it matters means the discussion of the conclusion. So this is, we have everything in the abstract, right? Then when we go to the introduction, basically this is part of the introduction. What is the problem that you want to analyze? This is the big problem in science, means you start with broader implications, right? Or looking at the problem from a broad point of view. So, I don't know, what I told you. Fluorines were discovered, I don't know, something, and then you close the focus. You go something broad, and then you close the focus. This is the idea. So this is still, so big problem in science means this. I don't know, maybe climate change. You can start by climate change, but you are not going to solve climate change with one paper. So you are probably just making some advice or something in a very focused let's say, question of the climate change, right? For instance, so you can start with climate change and then you go, I don't know, maybe the problems with cars or electric cars, I don't know what you can study, but you understand that you start with the big problem and then you narrow the problem. And then finally you discuss what is the gap, what you want, there is a gap in the knowledge, there is something that is not known, and this is what you want to contribute. You want to study this particular point. And then here you can make the summary, and this summary, remember that in the introduction we can put some of the results. It's not required, this is optional, but it's probably not a bad idea. So at the end of the introduction, once you have explained what you want to do and why, and you explain the context of previous words and so on, you can finish saying, okay, in our study we have used X-ray crystallography or whatever to, and then you can put the main results. Remember that, or we can write a sentence like, here we anticipate that we found, or here, okay, later on we will show that, and you can put here, there, you can put the main result. It's something, as I told you, you don't have to keep the reader in suspense. It's not needed. In the abstract, the reader should already know which are the main results. And here in the introduction, you can also, if you want, to discuss a little bit what are the main conclusions or the main results. Then you go to the results, and then here, okay, if you want, you can start with the question again. If you want to recapitulate the question, is okay. The methods, or maybe there is a method section before the results. But okay, so maybe this could be alone in that place, but anyway. So this is the method that you are going to use and the question that you want to solve. And then there is some results here. So maybe the raw data means, I don't know, the figures, the tables, and everything that you have that supports your final claim. This is the raw data, this is the processed data. So now the comments about the tables and figures and so on. And this follows with, if you want a final statistics or whatever. There is some logic in the presentation of the result. So well, this depends, again, I guess every field can have, even every paper has the logic, the flow, the flow of ideas that is logical. Let's say, there is some flow that is it follows. So you follow the logic to show what are the main results. And okay, then there is a discussion. We discuss the results, what we have found, and okay, at the end we fill the gap. There was a gap in the knowledge. There is something that you have to, that is not known, and you want to answer. You want to cover this gap. So at the end you should say, okay, the gap that we were discussing. So, or the answer to the question that we were introducing at the beginning is, and okay, you find it. And if you want, you can discuss limitations, limits, contributions beyond, or, and okay, science is better now, so this is a good point. After your work, science should be better, I guess. Anyway. Okay, so this is probably a kind of summary of what we have discussed about the structure of the paper. We have been discussing about the structure of the paper. Okay, in some journals they ask for author's contribution. There are not many journals, but I think every day there are more and more journals that they ask for author contributions, and this means what each author has, what has been the work of each author. Authorship does not communicate what contribution qualified an individual to be an author. Some journals now request, not all of them, but some request and publish information about the contribution of each person, name it, as having participated in a submitted study, at least for original research. For instance, A, B, and B, C, these are two authors, the initial of two authors, carried out experiment. A, B wrote the manuscript with support from CD. D and EF fabricated the XYZ sample. F, G, and GH helped supervise the project, and so on. Yeah? So you put here exactly what is the contribution of each author. So it's not bad. It's probably something because it forces the people to think about or to write what each author has been done, and maybe to conclude that some author does not deserve to be included, or on the other hand, some author that has not been included maybe deserves to be there. I don't know, but it's kind of force people to think about the authorship of the different, about the contribution of the different authors. Acknowledgements. This is okay. This is a section that is I would say, in all papers, or I would say, yeah, probably in all papers. So remember to acknowledge a funding agency or the sponsor. Yeah? Always do that. They put money in your project, so you have to acknowledge them. And in your particular case, as PhD students, maybe you have some fellowship. If you have a fellowship, you have also to acknowledge the fellowship to the institution that provided it. Maybe in some cases could be the University of Girona, in other cases could be the Generalitat de Catalunya, the Catalan government, or the Spanish one, the Mineco, whatever. You should thank. And write, I thank, or, I don't know, AB thanks, rather than I wish to thank. Why? Because this I wish to thank, it implies that I wish, but I do not. For instance, someone could read it that way. So if it's shorter and it's clear, I thank. That's all. No, I wish to thank because so it could imply, at least someone could read it that way, that you don't want to thank it, to thank them. Then thank your colleagues who contributed to the paper through discussion or by contributing to the work in a manner that is too minor to merit co-authorship. This is the place. Maybe you have discussed the paper with some of your colleagues and you think that they deserve to be in the acknowledgement, so you can put them here. But if you do so, please you should let them know in advance that you are going to acknowledge them. And you should get his or her permission. So you cannot put someone in the acknowledgement without telling him or her, okay, I consider that you deserve to be in the acknowledgement. If you don't mind, I will put you in the acknowledgement. Because, I don't know, maybe there is in some cases, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, but let's suppose a case, I don't know, someone comes to you and you say, okay, that the paper is very bad, and you do not agree with the conclusions and anything. But okay, you accept to discuss it with that person. That person say, okay, I will put you in the acknowledgement. I don't want to be in the acknowledgement because someone will think that I agree with the conclusions and I have helped you in something that I do not agree at all. So people should be asked. If you want to put them in the acknowledgement, do not take by granted that they will be happy. In some cases, they probably will not. So it's better to ask before. It's very easy, just an email. Do you mind if I put you in the acknowledgement? And they will say, yes, no, that's all. Very easy, but it has to be done. By the way, if you read the Code of Good Practices of our School of Doctoral Studies, this is something that is right in there. You should ask someone, if you want to acknowledge someone, you should ask first him or her. Okay, there is here, okay, if you go to this paper, just clicking there, you will see that in the acknowledgement, he starts. The first author, so this is Clemente Cobo Sanchez, would like to thank the Spanish INEM for its funding support. Okay, of course, it was kind of joke. Well, it was not a joke, it was a little bit probably a complaint. During the crisis, and even now, there are many people that are fired from the position as a researcher, and okay, maybe in some of cases they can continue to do something thanks to the INEM, the money from the unemployment service, let's say. So this is sad, but okay, it can be found in this particular acknowledgement. So it's very, it's not usual, but okay, in this case, probably he was angry about the system, and okay, why not? He put this. And here you have something similar. This is in the acknowledgement. This work has been carried out despite the economical difficulties of the author's country. This is about some people in Spain. The authors want to overall remark the clear contribution of the Spanish government in destroying the research and development horizon of Spain and the future of a complete generation. I think, okay, this is, I mean, this is already, this is a political, let's say, opinion. So probably it should not be put in an acknowledgement. Well, probably not. It should not be. Just, you should not express political your political thinking in the acknowledgements. And in fact, I don't know why, but probably, no, I don't know if someone in the ministry, or who knows, probably they contact the, let's say in this case, the corresponding authors, and they say, well, yeah, what are you doing, or something like that. I mean, I don't know what happened, but there was this corrigendum. This is an erratum. So this is a correction to the paper, but it was a correction only about the acknowledgement. It was not a correction because there was an error in a table or something like that. So they corrected in such a way. Professor Gorriz and Professor Ramirez regret to have missed to add the below quote, I think it says quote, or note in their article. And the note is this: Professor Juan Gorriz and Professor Javier Ramirez do not share this view about using research, research outcomes as a protest against any democratic government. The authors would like to apologize for any inconvenience caused. So I don't know. The story behind all this, I don't know, but probably, I don't know, there were the PhD students or the postdoc that decided to put this in the acknowledgement, and it got unnoticed by the corresponding authors. Or who knows, maybe the corresponding authors were in principle in favor of that, but at the end, because they were press or something like that, they published this corrigendum. I don't know. What it happens is, I don't know, but well, it's well, the conclusion would be that, okay, better to forget about make political, let's say, political thinking, to put political ideas in your acknowledgement. It's probably forget about this possibility. I would say this is not a good idea. There is another one here, which is this is very sad because it is an acknowledgement, and this paper is dedicated to the memory of my friend Francis Dolan, who died tragically in 2011. This, I mean, it's okay. Why not to dedicate a paper to the memory of someone? Well, once you read this, you reach the conclusion that it was that probably this guy committed, or this person committed suicide, because he says, "I am firmly," and this is the first author, the one that writes the acknowledgement, I'm firmly of the conviction that the psychological brutality of the postdoctoral system played a strong underlying role in Francis' death. I would like to take this opportunity, should anyone be listening, to urge those within academia in the roles of leadership to do far more to protect members of the community suffering from mental health problems, particularly during the most vulnerable stages of their careers. Okay, so, well, I mean, well, it's something that, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes happens. It's, I don't know, but okay, during both PhD and postdoc, uh, I mean, it's easy to get mental problems, like depression and this kind of things. So, okay, so that's true. We should as academia, let's say, or university or whatever, try to prevent this type of problems. And okay, so I have, if you want to read it, there are several documents here about this problem, about the pressure of postdoctoral research, PhD research, more or less the same. There is here this data: 36% of PhD students are at risk of having a psychiatric disorder such as depression. Okay, we make this we send to you this survey, and the number that we get in the UDG was 41%, more or less the same. It's a little bit higher, but no, not especially higher. But I have to say that this 41% is symptoms of depression, not depression. It's not a diagnostic. So the survey cannot make diagnostic. The diagnostic, you should go to the doctor. This is just indicating that there is some symptoms. So, so around 41% PhD students in our university have some symptom that could be related to depression. But it's not that 41% are depressed. No, it's not this case. So it's very different. But anyway, it's a problem. We should do, I don't know the percentage in the general population. Probably it's a little bit low, but probably not much. So I mean, it's not, well, well, you know, during the PhD there are a lot of pressure about the results, many things in the future, and so on. So one can reach this state of depression. By the way, let me tell you, and I told you today, I think, if you have received the email, I sent the email before lunch, that we have this psychological support service at the UDG. It's free, it's for free. You ask to, you ask to go there, and okay, in principle, now the problem is that they, in general, you have to wait for 1.5 months or something like that before you get the appointment with the doctor. But okay, now there are two. So the doctor just attends for 5 hours per week, and now this will be changed, and we will go to 7 hours per week. So probably it will be reduced the number of weeks and that we have to wait for having an appointment with the doctor. However, if there is some urgent case, then the appointment will be as fast as possible, maybe in 1 week or something like that. Okay, so it's good to know, just for you to know that there is this service. So maybe you have a colleague, or maybe yourself, you feel a little bit depressed or whatever, or you have a colleague that you know that suffers some depression or something like that, please tell him or her to go to here, and they will help them. Okay, so more things. Oh, this is more happy. This is an acknowledgement that finishes with CBM would specifically like to highlight the ongoing and unwavering support of Loma O'Brien. Loma, would you marry me? So it's a declaration in a paper. Yeah, here the same. You can go here and you can check that this is true. So this Tamayo also, will you marry me to this Mugurus? I don't know. Anyway, but there is, this is not common. This is quite special. I would say that probably it's not the best way to do it, but anyway, if you want to do it in that way, why not? Okay, this is, I had some problem with my right eye. I have retinal detachment in 2017, and this is what the doctor that makes the surgery of the eye, and simply I use one of the papers, this one here, to acknowledge her the help in this, when I had this problem. Okay, and now we move to references. So, okay, acknowledgement, so author's contribution, we have seen before, we have seen conclusion, discussion. Now let's go to references. So there is this is in all papers, right? In all papers we have references. This is an important part of the paper. So, which reference we should put? All reference should be chosen for a strict relevancy. So it should be relevant for your paper. Yeah? So this means not too many, not too few. Only those that are relevant. How many? It depends. Maybe there are some, maybe you are analyzing a subject that there are many publications there, so you have to, maybe you have to cite 150 publications. If they are relevant, why not? You should cite them. Maybe you are in something that is very new, and there are only 20 references to be cited. Okay, then you cite 20. Yeah? So the number, the exact number, it will depend in each case, but it should be relevant, right? So that reference should be important to understand the word that you are presenting. Yeah, or important for you, maybe you get some new ideas from the reference or whatever, and then you cite them. They should be written in the style of the journal. Yeah, so, I don't know, you submit the journal to you submit the paper to certain journal, and you should look the, let's say, the format of the references in that journal, and you should write, you should format your, you should give the format to your references following the guidelines of the journal. And then what happens? Sometimes the paper is rejected. You cannot take the paper and submit to another journal without changing the format of the references, because this gives very bad impression. It shows that you are a little bit, you are not careful, you are a little bit careless, I mean, you don't mind. So you should always adapt your references, and in some cases this takes some time. You should adapt the references to the journal that you are submitting your job. There are some, we will talk this now, there are some programs that do it automatically, so it's good to you to start using them from the very beginning. You get used to these programs, and then it's very easy to change the format of the reference. So the reference should be placed at the point in the sentence to which it applies, not necessarily at the end of the sentence. Sometimes, I don't know, you say, for instance, Fernandez et al., and then you put the reference, and then you continue the sentence. You don't have to wait until the end to put the number of the reference. You can put it already in the name of the author. Yeah? So if you want. For a generalist journal, citations to journal of different fields are expected. If you submit something to science, you cannot put all references in something very focused, like, I don't know, all references are of journals of physical chemistry. This is something that, in principle, is something that probably will go against the paper, because these people in science, they look for something that is of interest for many people, not for just physical chemistry people, let's say. So if you are submitting something to a generalist journal, it's better you have references from different fields, let's say. To see that this is important not only in chemistry, but maybe in physics and environmental science or something like that. Then your paper will have more possibilities to be accepted. Let's suppose that a reference include two authors. If it is include two authors, then you should include both surnames in the reference. Suppose that you have Fernandez and Lopez as authors. Then you don't say Fernandez et al. You say Fernandez and Lopez, right? Both, the two. Because, okay, you say, you use the et al. Or and co-workers if you have more authors. If you have three or more authors, then it's okay. Fernandez et al. Something like that, because okay, then otherwise the sentence will be too long. But if you have two authors, better you cite both. Avoid too much self-citation. Self-citation means citations to your own papers. This is also something that editors now, some of them, they are looking at that. And they tell you, okay, you are making too much citations, too much self-citations. So please remove some of your self-citations. What is the number of self-citations that is, let's say reasonable? I would say maybe, I mean, it's difficult, but maybe 10% is okay. If you have 20%, probably it's already too much. This means that if you publish 50 references, 5 can be yours. Okay. If you have 10, it starts to be too much. It's probably too much. But okay, it also depends. I mean, it's something that is not, it's a fuzzy, let's say, the border is a little bit fuzzy. When the exact number of self-citation that is accepted, this is something that is a little bit fuzzy, but anyway, let's suppose that 10% is okay, more starts to be too much. Okay, and another thing, the references, usually there are there are far more mistakes in the reference sections than anywhere else. For some reason, I mean, I don't know why, but okay, we forget to check the references and there are plenty of errors. In nursing journals, okay, this is a special, very special narrow field, but anyway, in nursing journals, the errors were about 50% of the references contain errors. This means one every 3 references contains some error, either in the volume, in the names of the authors, in the year, whatever. Okay. As a reviewer, if I act as a reviewer and I see many errors in the references, this gives me very bad impression. It means that it has been careless edited, the paper. So the authors have not been very careful. If the authors are not careful writing, why should the authors be careful doing the experiments? So, I mean, so reviewers, if you make a lot of errors, plenty of typos, phrases disconnected, and these kind of things, the paper will be rejected for sure, because it gives a bad impression. So if the writing is bad, probably the experiments are also bad. Okay, if the paper is rejected and then submitted to another journal, do not forget to change the style of the references. I told you about that. It's something that you have to do. And these 2 programs, they do that for you. This one is a program that you have to buy. It's not very expensive, but you have to buy. But this one here is a program that is for free in our university. So I think, I'm not sure, but I guess it's all Catalan universities or all Spanish universities, I don't know. They pay for this program and it's free for everyone in the university. So you can use Mendeley for your references. And it's quite, I mean, both. Well, now, in my case, I'm more used with EndNote, but I have also used Mendeley. More or less are the same. It's more or less the same. But this one is, the university has the official, let's say, permission to use it. And so we have the last version of Mendeley. We have courses of Mendeley. If you go to the library, every year they have courses about Mendeley. So they will show you how to use it. It's quite easy and it's very helpful. You will appreciate Mendeley, especially if the paper has been rejected and you have to submit to another journal. If you have to do the changes by hand of all references, this is very tedious. It's very boring. Just to change, I don't know. The year, instead of being boldface, has to be, I don't know, italics and in parentheses and so on. And reference by reference. This is very boring. So, and this program that does everything for you. So I recommend this program very much. The 3 most usual systems for references. So this is name and year system. So let's suppose that you have a paper and you want to cite it. You put something like that. Smith and Jones, 1990B. So this means that there are 2 papers at least, or maybe 3 papers, but Smith and Jones of the same year, 1990, that you are citing, and this is the B1, so the second one. So in this case, in the references, in the list of references, they are given by alphabetic order. So the first author, let's say, so the authors that start with A, they are first, then the B, and so on, right? So, and you don't put a number of the reference, you put the name of the authors. So in this case, if there are 2 authors, you put the name of the 2 authors. If there are more than 2 authors, then it will be Smith et al. Right? You go to Smith et al. If there are more than one, and the year. If there is more than one reference with the same author and same year, then it starts to put A, B, C, and so on. So this is quite, this is found especially, I would say, in biomedicine journals, biology, medicine. Well. Then you have this alphabet number system. So you have, again, the alphabetic order of the references, but then every reference has a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So your introduction, maybe the first reference is number 32, right? It could be because they are put in alphabetic order, and the the first paper that you refer is number 32 or number 23 or so. So it has not to be number 1, right? And then there is this citation order system. This, at least in chemistry, is the most usual. You simply, the first citation is number 1, and you put the first citation. They do not come in alphabetic order. They simply come, let's say, in the order that is found in the paper. So you have number 1, number 2, and so on. The first source you cite in the text recites number 1, second number 2, and so on. This is the idea. So these are the 3 most usual systems. As I told you, if you use Mendeley, it doesn't matter. The journal, if you change the journal and this journal was citation order system and the next one is name and year system, the program does the work for you. So it's quite convenient, I would say, use these programs. And for Mendeley, we have courses in the university. Go to the library, and they have even more than 1 course per year about Mendeley. And it's for free. So if you are PDI, it's for free. Why we should cite properly? Okay, here there are 15 reasons, and they are taken from this paper. If you go to this paper, well, you see homocitants and carbon allotropes for an ethics of citation. Okay. This talks about why we should cite properly. And this sentence is taken from this paper. The scientist performs and explicitly homocitans et citatus. So someone that cites and receives citations. The scientists. The scientists are people that cite and receive citations. And these are some reasons. I mean, of course, to pay homage to pioneers. I don't know, people that, the one that discovered, for instance, fluorines. We pay homage to these people. Or giving credit for related work, homage to peers, people that has been studying reactivity of fluorines. So, for instance, it's good to give credit for that. Identifying methodologies, equipment, providing background reading, correcting one's own work, correcting the work of others. Okay, there are many possible reasons why we have to cite the paper, but it's important that we cite properly. This means only the words that are relevant for your work. But all words that are relevant should be cited, should be included in the citation. If you do not so, I mean, you are committing something that is not ethical. It's part of the scientific ethics to cite when it's convenient, when one work has to be cited. It's to do so. So from this paper, again, if you want to read this paper, it's a nice paper to read. By the way, it was written by Roald Hoffmann, among others. I told you that this is one of the names that when I think about my field, it comes to mind about people that writes very well papers, very good papers. This is also a very well-written paper. I suggest you read it if you want. Okay, so once results are published, they can be freely used by other researchers to extend knowledge. But until the results are so widely known and familiar that they have become common knowledge, let's suppose, we can think, for instance, about the theory of relativity, right, by Einstein. Okay, every time that you discuss something related to the theory of relativity, you do not need to cite this work because it's so known, it's so clearly. I mean, it's not necessary to put the reference in this case because it's part, let's say, of the culture or scientific culture, if you want. Until the results are widely known and familiar that they have become common knowledge, for instance, the case of the relativity, but there are many other cases, people who use them are obliged to recognize the discoverers by means of citations. So we are obliged. It's nothing. So it's compulsory. It's something that we have to do. In this way, researchers are rewarded by the recognition of their peers for making results public. Right? You are using the knowledge of other people, and you should pay a reward. It's very easy to pay this reward. It's simply by citation. Let's do that. All of us should do that, and okay, all of us will be happy, because we will be citing, but also we will recite citations. Simply what is fair, let's say. Citations are important in interpreting the novelty and significance of a paper, and they must be prepared carefully, right? So you are adding something with your paper, with your work, you are adding something that was not known until now. So you are filling a gap of knowledge. But it should be clear what is this gap. Maybe it's just short gap. It could be very valuable, but it's short what. You cannot imply that you are filling a gap like this if in reality you are filling a gap like this. This means that this difference is because someone already published something related to this work, and it should be recognized by citations. Researchers have a responsibility to search the literature thoroughly and to cite prior work accurately. Implied in this is that authors should strive to cite and read the original paper rather than, or in addition to, a more recent paper or review that relies on earlier work. So this is something that I have to admit that many of us do, or I do, which in some cases, you cite the review of and you do not cite the original source, and it should be cited. The original source should be cited. So you can cite the review, of course, but you should also cite the original paper. Okay, this is from the American Chemical Society Ethical Guidelines of Chemical Research. It's the same for biology, environmental science, all these subjects. An author should cite those publications that have been influential in determining the nature of the reported work and that will guide the reader quickly to the earlier work that is essential for understanding the present investigation. Except in a review, citation of work that will not be referred to in the reported research should be minimized. So this means only the relevant work should be cited. And an author is obligated, it's an obligation, it's ethical to do that, to perform a literature search to find and then cite the original publication that describes closely related work. So, I told you, how many papers should we cite? Okay, there is no clear border. This is fuzzy. It depends on the subject. It should not be too little, it should not be too much, it should be just enough. It's difficult to say. It depends on the subject. And here there is this is a graph of about the average number of papers that were cited in 1960, so many years ago, so more than 50 years ago, even 70 years ago. So this is for science. This line here is for science. So in 1960, on average, every paper cites 15 papers. Now, on average, is 40, more or less. In 2010, it was 40. So this number is increasing. But okay, it's just a reference. Maybe 40, 50 papers is a reasonable number to cite in your papers. But it will depend on the topic, on the subject. If it's a very new subject, then there will be few papers to be cited. If it's something that is very well known, that maybe instead of 50 you have to cite 70 or 100, who knows. But okay, anyway, it should be only relevant papers. You should try to avoid too much self-citation. 10% is something reasonable. More than that, maybe it's too much. Okay, now let's suppose, and this happens quite often, you are happy with your research, but someone does something that is related to your research, in some cases very close related, and your work is not cited. What do you do? Okay. Of course, you complain, and if you want, you can. Why not? You can write a polite email to the corresponding author of the paper, and you make a complaint, but okay, in a polite way. Yeah? So this is some letter that I sent to this Professor Lu, who was a Chinese, that I consider in that case that he should have cited one of our works and he didn't. And I read with great pleasure your paper in chemical science on this fluorine triple abnormal NHC. This is just to congratulate you for the work and to tell you that we have also reached the conclusion that nucleophilic attacks occur in the 6 junctions in the cage of Bingham-Hirsch reaction. Although we attribute this trend to aromaticity of the metallophluorines. I am closing the paper for your perusal. So I'm not saying I complain because no, it's very polite. So I congratulate him for the work and so on. But I tell him, okay, we already have done something related to this work, and okay, I'm sure that this professor was wise enough or intelligent enough to understand that I was making a complaint here, and probably in next paper that he publishes, if he considers that our paper has to be cited, he will do that. You can do that. I mean, this is something it can be done. Why not? And I have also received in some cases emails like that, and then okay, you say thank you very much for your information or whatever. And I don't know. You can maybe then you can apologize for having forget to cite this work or something like that. I mean, this is something that it can be done. It's not something that is not bad. And okay, why not? I mean, yeah, please. Mhm. Good question. I don't know. I mean, it's ethical. It depends. Yeah. It's probably the paper will not be accepted. You're right. And why I say that is probably it depends on the case. Why? I mean, if the work that this reviewer asked to be cited is really relevant for your work, then I think it's ethical. Why not? Right? But if it's a little bit outside, then it's unethical behavior. I would agree with that. But what you have to do, I think you have to at least accept one or two citations because, yeah, it's how it works. I mean, yeah, this is a little bit sad, but yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah. You can do that. But okay, we will talk. Yeah. I mean, when you have the list of authors and you see that in all the lists there is always the same author, you reach the conclusion that this was the reviewer, and I'm sure that you will. Yeah, the conclusion will be true for almost for sure. You can, if you want, you can write or even you can write in your answer that you do not feel that these um, papers are relevant enough for your work, so you don't cite them. You can do that. Okay. But it's true that you are in the hands of the reviewer, so if he's not happy or she is not happy, maybe you will have the paper rejected. I don't know. So it's a difficult situation. So yeah, you can also try to discuss this with the editor. But if you do that, probably I don't know. But in some cases, it's better to make a phone call. We will discuss that. I mean, in some. At least from my experience, if you phone an editor, in most of the cases they attend the call, and then you can simply talk with him. So this is the situation. Okay, because yeah, it depends. Maybe, I don't know how. My advice would be just add maybe one or two references and go go ahead. It's the best way to solve this problem, but yeah. But you are in your right to not cite this paper, so if you want, you can try to fight this reviewer. It's a little bit up to you, the decision. I would agree if it's not relevant for the work, then I agree with you that it's an unethical behavior of the reviewer. Yeah. But the solution is not easy. Yeah? Okay, so, okay, anyway. Oh, now let's come back. I mean, we are now here in tables, so let's take 5 minutes to, if you want, to do this exercise about the conclusion. Maybe, I mean, if you have, no, it was not here. Sorry. If you have, oh, it was here. So if you have a paper, if you have brought a paper to discuss, try to look at the conclusion section and see if it follows more or less these, let's say, advices. As I told you, these advices are not strict. They are simply advices. So, but especially the first one is important, to have this full circle. So it's good in the conclusions to have the question and to have the answer. So you have this full circle in your paper. Okay, so if you can make this work now, let's take 5 minutes to do so. we have to finish to write the conclusions. I don't know, do you have some comment about the conclusion that you have read? Maybe you found some of these in the conclusions.
When we speak of communication, we also have to do the limitations and
In the communication. Okay, usually in the communication there is not a section that is called conclusions. Usually the last paragraph it's not, let's say, compulsory, but most of the authors use the last paragraph to say in summary and then in conclusion or something and then summarize the main results of the paper.
but you have to stress the limitations and the new ideas or not?
Yeah, maybe in a communication I would say probably not because all space is limitation. But if you have enough space, maybe you can do that. So it's not, there is no strict rule there. So, usually communication is very short, so usually there is space limitation, so probably better not. And if there is not, well, you can do it. Okay, I don't know. So all of you have found that in the conclusion was this full cycle, let's say, fulfilled. I mean, in the sense that it was clear. Yeah.
I have a question. My paper, we state something that is already said in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And in the conclusion review said, and in agreement with previous works, we also found that here you have to cite again the reference that you
so this is, yeah. I would say that usually in conclusions I have never seen references to paper in general.
But
Because this was so that we should be put it in the discussion section.
in case it's in the discussion, but because there's no conclusion section, and that is the last paragraph.
Okay. And this was communication, let's say.
Well, no, the article is saying that.
So it's without sections. One article, but without sections.
No, we have the methodology, the results, the discussion, but no conclusion.
And no conclusions, okay.
And in the
so in the last paragraph, this is used for the conclusions.
yes.
And then you say that if you can cite in this paragraph some.
Yeah, it's like restating an important citation that you already done in the previous discussion.
Yeah, if you have already cited the work, it's not needed to cite it again. You can if it without citation, this particular thing, especially if it's part of the conclusion. It's part of the conclusion. So usually in the conclusion there is no new reference in general. There could be one reference, but in general there is no new reference because you are simply summarizing the new result and you have already made the citation before.
Is it different for social science? Because I see some citations there, but maybe they're being.
Maybe. Social science, I don't know.
Yeah.
These conclusions are then yeah, maybe so.
I guess also because of the clarity of.
Yeah. Everyone, yeah, this is quite often to each
There's no hard
person.
I have another question about references. If you use an exact sentence that you already wrote in another article, your article.
One sentence.
Yes.
Is this plagiarism or not?
Yes. And also plagiarism.
Okay.
Or
it's considered one sentence is considered not. One sentence.
Any group or just in your.
No, even if it's a sentence from another one. One sentence is not considered plagiarism. Two sentences would be valid.
And if you write one sentence of your own group that you already wrote.
Yeah, then it's auto-plagiarism, which is also not.
And you have to self-cite yourself.
Well, if you put it in quotes, then yes, but if you put the sentence, then it would be very strange to say. Just because the sentence is the same. Okay, so for questions, so if we move forward, okay, let's go. So then we are in the table now, discussing the table. So okay, so there is a main rule, and this has to
to be followed, which is if you have some data that you want to present, you have to do it either in the text or in the table or the figure, but you cannot present the same data in more than one way. So you choose what you want to do. So remember that we already discussed a little bit about that if the precision is important, then it's better table. If the term is important, then it's better figure. So you decide that you give the data only in a way, in one way. The title or caption of the table is like the title of the paper, so it should be concise, but it should contain enough information for the reader to understand the table without reference to the text. So when you take paper and you simply look general paper, just going through all the text, but you look at the figures and tables, and you should be able to read the caption of the table and have an idea of what this table means. So just reading the caption. Okay, for write the table so that like elements read down, not across. Yeah, this means that you put, suppose that you put a distance, and you put the value of the distance for different systems, you put it in a column that way. And this is because it's more easy to read. If we have a column, then we can compare the values, our minds can compare the values very easy. If you put it in a line, it's more difficult. So better that way. Okay, choose units of measurement so to avoid the use of excessive number of digits. Give the units in the caption or in the figure. And this means that suppose that you have you give the weight of something, and the weight is 0.0015, 0.0025, or something like that. And this is grams. So it's better you give milligrams, in that way you are going to give 15 or 25 or 1.5 or something like that. So in order to avoid to have too much digits, you change the unit so the number of digits is that is possible. Let's say. Do not include tables that are not referred to in the text. Or so imagine you put a table, you have some numbers, and you do not discuss the table in the text. This is very bad. It has no sense. All tables and figures that you put in your paper have to be discussed in the text. Otherwise, it should be removed. Because it means that they are not important, they are not discussed. Or be tempted to dress up your report by presenting data in the form of tables or figures that could be easily represented by a sentence or two in the text. So if you have a table with 4 numbers, this is not a good idea. Put the 4 numbers in the text. So this is what this means. Do not include columns of data that contain the same value throughout. So you see sometimes tables that, I don't know, you put a value, generalization 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It should not be in the table. It's the same value. You can put maybe a footnote in the table saying the generalization angle in your case is 0. Not to repeat the same value. It's not clear, not to provide new information. Okay, do not use vertical lines to separate columns unless absolutely necessary. For this table, you see there is no vertical lines. Probably better you don't have these vertical lines. Okay, if you have, it's not a problem, the editor probably will remove them. And you see, okay, this is the caption of the table, and it's clear what is the force, ball lengths, generalization angles, something differences, and so on. So this is, you see the units, angstroms, and degrees, and then you see they go down, the values go up to down, so this in the columns, we have the different columns, and then this is how the distances changes when you go from this, and you add inside this standard diagram. It's something that's better. Okay, this table is was okay. This is the idea. And then go to the figures. So we have the tables. So those are simple. So let's go by everyone. So in the tables we have also a title, caption, describe the figure, and it should be succinct, so it should be short, yet provide sufficient information for the reader to interpret the figure without reference to the text. So just looking at the figure caption, you should understand the figure. Provide each axis with a brief but informative title, including units of measurement in boldface. This is some examples. The axis in boldface is principle. These again are advices. Shouldn't be necessarily followed in all cases, but it's probably the best way to do it. The axis in boldface. Do not include figures that are not referred to in the text, same as tables. If you put a figure, there is no reference in the text to this figure, it's probably not a good idea. Try to remove this figure. Or we can the result you will provide data in the form of figures that could be easily replaced by a sentence or two. Do not extend the axis very far beyond the range of data. So if you have data range are between 0 and say 78, the axis should be from 0 to 80, and no more. The size of the letters and symbols must be chosen so that the final printed graph in the journal is clear and readable. Usually you present a figure, but in the figure it will be much, it will be smaller, maybe 50% smaller or something like that. So you have to already take this into account and to make the numbers large enough so a reduction of 50% or something like that will not make this number and letters unreadable. You will be able to read them. The meaning of the symbols, if you want, can be given in the caption or in the region. Maybe you put symbols like a triangle, or rhombus, or something like that, with different points, and each triangle or rhombus means something. Then you have the relation, it's probably a good option, but also you can put this meaning in the caption. Do not put too much information in a single figure, and the resolution should be at least in black and white, 1200 dpi. So dpi is something like dots per inch or something like that. Exactly, grayscale 600 and color 300 dots per inch. This is the expected resolution mean for a paper figure to be published in a scientific paper. And this is an example of a figure that is okay. So usually you have this, you see the axis levels which are in boldface. Also the two main axes here, the axes are also in boldface, and then the fixed points inside. So this is something that is better. And also you see that the big ones and the short ones, so the big ones correspond to 100, 200, and so on, and then you have the smallest ones. This is, I don't know, this is 20, 40, 60, 80, and so on. Then you have here the experimental data, so this is the time in milliseconds, and this is the count of something, I don't know what is that. You have the experimental data here, and then you have the line that fits this data. This is the equation that fits the data. This is the meaningful line tendency, the experimental points. There is no unreadable data or symbol, everything is clear, as self-explained as possible. This is something, it's a good figure, easy to read and to interpret. Figure should communicate ideas with clarity, precision, and readability. This is another example. You can have, for instance, insets inside the figure. You have the title, the axis is in boldface with the units. Here in Axolans you don't have unit because Axolans does not have unit, something that goes from 0 to 1 without units. And then you have here the different wavelengths. Also you have the peaks along all pointing inside. Then you have different, I don't know what are A, B, C, D, E, I don't know what they are, but different whatever. And you have different colors for each one, and they are distinguishable different colors. The axis title with units, bold and larger font. And then there is this inset here, so analyze data in the inset. You see here, this is the absorbance and 590 nanometers. So this position more or less is the absorbance and how it changes with time. I don't know why this is important. case was important. You see the colors here are the same as the ones used here. So for A, uses black. For B, it's green, red. For C, is green. For E, is orange. For D, is blue. So, units times seconds. Well, in principle, this is a good figure, easy to read. And so this is something well done. Okay, and then we have the table of contents, another part of the table of contents. And this this is let's say this is usually a graphic in most journals, I would say now. They ask for a graphic to be included with each manuscript for displaying the table of contents and just or a couple of sentences summarizing the work. This graphic should capture the reader's attention and in conjunction with the manuscript title should give the reader a quick visual impression of the essence of the manuscript without providing specific results. So the graphic should be simple but informative. The graphic must be entirely original and published at work created by one of the co-authors, several co-authors. The graphic should not include a photograph, drawing, or caricature of any person living or deceased. Okay, this is, I mean, as I told you, this is what is expected, but okay, there are counterexamples, so the rules are not always fulfilled. So there are no. So this is, for instance, an example. Let's see if I can go here. Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is, you see, I mean, I don't know if you can see it well. So you see, probably this is not a very good. Let me make it. So this for this paper, this is the, let's say the graph of the table of contents. And after it contains a person, and also you have this is probably not very good idea. Right? You put a person here, and they also probably the, let's say, the attitude of this person is probably not the best fitted for a scientific job. Right? Anyway, it's just kind of funny, so you can find something from time to time something that is a little bit strange, let's say. Okay, anyway. Okay. So do not include in your table of contents graphic, postage stamps because they are protected by, let's say, the copyright, currency from any country, or trade market items. I don't know, the logo of Coca-Cola, for instance, you cannot put it in one of these table of contents, except if you get permission. If you ask for permission, you get it. So company logos, image and products, forget about these things. Avoid choosing a graphic that already appears within the text of the manuscript. This is something that the editor doesn't like. You take one of the graphics that already appear in the text and you use this as a graphic from the table of contents. This is not a good idea. And you can label the graphic from the table of contents only and provide it in the last page of the submitted manuscript. So that the manuscript in the last page of the table of contents, and then you put the figure there, the graphic. Okay, and this is one, for instance, that I like very much because just by looking, I'm not expert in this field, but just by looking at this picture, I know that this is some molecule that helps for the image, for imaging, let's say, with some molecule that you want to see in the brain. Yes? So this was this 5-HT2C agonist, and this molecule in principle attached to the receptor, and you can see from this PET imaging. I don't know how it works, but you see that this is very clear that the paper is going to be about this topic. Yeah, so this is a nice example. Okay, this is from someone in our group. This was some reaction that changes, the relationship activity changes when you add electrons. So it's kind of switch on here, and then represent that if you put electrons, it changes from this bond 66 to 36. Anyway, so this is also probably a good example of table of contents. Okay, if I go, this Angevan de Chemie is a journal in chemistry quite well known, but I'm sure that, okay, for all journals is something like that. So just as an example, let me tell you that you see there is here, and I think that this is for all journals, you have get content alerts. So if you press here and you put your email there, you will get every week or every time a new issue appears, you will get information on this issue. So you get all the titles, with the title, the graphic, and the graphic with the table of contents. So you can follow what is being published in this journal every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. So I suggest, in the case for you, that you choose what the journals that you want to follow, and you follow some of these journals by asking for these content alerts. And this is what, I mean, this is a table of contents for this journal. This was, okay, this is a table of contents of 2016, but it's the same now. So basically you see, I mean, oh, so for instance you have here this paper, and this is the title, right? And this is the table of the graphic of table of contents, and this is a summary, very short summary of the, it's not the abstract of the paper, it's even short, just 1-2 sentences, very short, describing the main let's say, main result of this paper. So with the title, reading this and this, you should have a very good idea of what is this work about, and you know if you are interested or not. So you see, this is another example. So you have the graphic of the table of contents, the title, and then a short sentence describing probably the most important, or what you are studying, or the most important result of the study, or whatever. So you see, and everything is like that. So just if you simply look at this table of contents with the titles and then the graphic, you already know if you are interested or not in this paper. If you are interested, then you go there, you read the abstract, and so on. And at the end, you read the whole paper, or simply you forget it about this paper and you go for another one. But it's something that, okay, I recommend you to do for the most important journals in your, let's say, in your area. Okay, so you see here, get new content alerts is what I showed you before. All journals have this get new content alerts. So you just press that, give your email, and you will decide all the papers that are publishing every week or every 15 days or whatever the issue. Okay, and then we have the supporting information. This is the last part of when we discuss about the paper structure. This is the last part of the paper of the last. Part of the different structure of the paper, and the supporting information is material that may be essential to the specialized reader, only to the specialized reader, but does not require elaborations in the paper itself. Most journals are encouraging this type of publishing to keep printed paper short. So in general, as I told you, we have to decide what is essential, and what is essential should be in the paper, and the rest goes to the supporting information. So maybe some people that, once you have more detail or experience or something, they will go to the supporting information and they will read the supporting information. And most of the people will simply keep with the main, just with the main paper, the mouse. The contents of the supporting information can be discussed in the text. So you can, as you can see in table S2, S means supporting information, and then you can discuss this table. The table is not in the main text, but you can discuss some very briefly or not very long, some part of the supporting information. It goes in a separated file, so it's not the same file of the manuscript. In the title of the paper, author affiliation and table of contents. There is no limitation of space. This is the good part. So isn't unlimited. You can put whatever you like. All material you want is there. Links to the supporting information are visible on the table of contents after for each PLM navigation and in the full text after that. So if you, okay, I have not shown you before, but when we have gone to this table of content of the annual to-do, we have pressed one of the papers, there will be part that is supporting information. And you can download supporting information, or you can download just a manuscript or quote or whatever. Examples of things that can go to the supporting information include large tables, extensive figures, lengthy experimental questions, mathematical derivation, analytical and spectral characterization data, logical test data, all these kind of things that maybe a lot of data cannot be included in the main manuscript, but it can go to the supporting information. Because there is no limitation of space, you can put everything there. No problem. If you want to publish all your data, you can do it, but you can do it in supporting information. In the main manuscript, only the most important. The things that really support your main conclusions. And this is an example, so supporting information, title, name of the authors, affiliation, and then you see table as well. Cartesian coordinates of all systems analyzed in pages 2. Experimental and capital high level geometrical parameters. So then you continue. There are many things. In some cases, you see here, this is one paper that we published some years ago, and here you see there is figure S100. So there are 100 figures in the supporting information. There are now more and more the papers contain a lot of information in the supporting information. So in this particular paper there was at least 100 figures, apart from tables and many material. So, but this was not discussed everything in the text. It was just maybe some discussion about the supporting results in the text of few of them. But okay, you have everything here, so specialized reader wants to know more about the results, you can go to the supporting information and look about all this information. So do not worry about that the data will be lost. You can gather all the data, and you have to select what is the most important for the paper, and once you have this selected, the rest can go to the supporting information. No problem. It's not lost. It's there. Okay, and then maybe you can do a little bit, just finding. Let me just, we can do just this slide here, and then we finish here if you want. But okay, writing is fine. So now it's not about the structure of the paper. So we are changing, and we are discussing a little bit about the writing style. So this is about English. So I told you that I will not discuss English very much, but this is about the style in journals. So the voice, you know that there are two voices there, the passive and the active. The active is the one who, in the active voice, the subject does the action. In the passive voice, the subject describes the action. So this is the typical case. The dog was called by Mary, this is passive, and Mary called the dog, this is active. In this case, between these two sentences, this is one that is preferred. So active voice is preferred over passive voice. Why? First, because there is a reduction, 24%. If you look at number of letters, if you count the number of letters, it's a reduction of 24%. I mean, you say, okay, this is nothing. But in a full paper, if you have 10 pages, then you go to 8 pages. So the editor is happy. Yeah? The shorter the paper, the better. So better active voice. And also it's more easy to understand. I mean, as a reader, this sentence is so clear, and it's impossible to be confused. So subject, verb, and predicate or complement. So anyway, so verb. In general, use active voice. But of course, when you read papers, and for sure when you write papers, it will be the same. In some cases, you will use passive voice. It's not a problem. You can do that. But if you have to choose, then you choose active voice. And the same with the person. If you use person, better to use first person, I or we, to denote agents of action because it avoids wordiness. This means that the sentence is shorter when you use first person and confusion. And this is, for instance, an example. We found A was greater than B. This is preferred over it was found that A was greater than B. Because this it was found, who found? This is very clear. We, the authors found A was greater than B in our example. Okay? So this is shorter and clear. Avoids confusion, there's no problem. This is much better. In general, use first person and possessive case. Let me just go to this place here. I mean, if you have a doubt about English, I suggest you go here. I mean, this is something that hoteles. No, no, this is not hotel. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, yeah. This is called. This was published by the Xarxa Vicenç, which is the, let's say, this Xarxa or this network is made by all the Catalan universities, and they made this university style guide, and it's about English, and it's. I mean, I like it very much. So I mean, if you have a doubt, you will see here. I mean, maybe okay, we cannot read it, but okay. I suggest you go there and you see. There is everything. If you, I have to put a hyphen or not, for instance, well, should I put a hyphen or not? There are the rules here. If I have to put a colon or semicolon, or where I have to put a comma or whatever, everything is discussed here. So if you have doubt of writing English, you will hear and it will be solved, almost for sure. So it's quite complete and it's for free. You go there and you look at the problem and you solve the problem in general. So it's, I recommend you to use it if you have some doubt. So maybe we can stop today here and we will meet again on Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh yeah, sorry. You have to sign it. Please, remember to sign. Josep. Bueno, en tenia una a la carrera, però és que de l'escala. No. Es diu Josep és el cognom encara. Sí. Sí, això. Sí. Com li va anar? Però és veritat, després de tesi o... És un objecte d'estudi, un requisit. Si just no... Això, però ja sí, sí. I ens dediqueu a quin nivell? Tots els nivells o... Sí, bàsquet ja no aniré a fer bàsquet. Sí, per accedir a un doctorat necessites un grau. Sí, és molt més de la UIC i tal, i per això m'interessa. Per mi, sí, home, i tant, i tant. Sempre tot el que has d'enviar i tal, sempre per exemple, a l'EUCES, hi ha per acreditar els estudis del que sigui, doncs necessitem un tant percentatge de doctor, han de fer un màxim de per aquí, perquè... Sí, doncs està bé. És que està aquí per un motiu o un altre. Com tens, tu? Jo em sembla que... Molt bé. Ostres, finalment una cosa l'Anna, que aquí fa molt de temps que no... Ara els donaré. Sí, em sembla que el dia d'en Pere i de la... Exacte. I de la, com es diu, la segona mare, la llagostera, la Roget. Exacte, però va dir que poguessis. La Roget, l'Helena Roget, sí. Doncs marxa, em sembla que dissabte ja se'n va 15 dies allà a fer un experiment i tal, se'n va molt contenta i ara, bueno, tornarà a normalitat. Gràcies, fins ara. Ben cap allà, no? Sí, jo res, vinc d'aquí 2 minuts.
No estava reservada perquè la setmana passada al final no va... Bueno, mentre que la majoria no podia fer això, no vam quedar allà mateix. Però he mirat i està lliure, per tant, suposo que no serà cap allà.
Ja vindré d'aquí un moment.
Ah, que li han donat la llista? No, a mi no m'havia arribat. Després, participar aquí amb anglès i tal no haurem de fer-ho, no?
Participar en quin sentit, què vols dir?
Que si ens farà alguna pregunta...
No, en principi no. I escolta'm, si això fos un inconvenient o així, participeu en català o en castellà, no hi ha absolutament cap problema.
Bueno, alguna vegada sí que hauria fet alguna pregunta, però en anglès...
Vale, doncs...
Que fa un any i mig que he començat a aprendre anglès.
Doncs no et tallis, tu...
Tot i que l'entenc bastant bé, però clar, a l'hora de parlar...
Ja, no, doncs que això no sigui un inconvenient, vull dir, a veure...
És que jo vaig veure un hàndicap, i la Judit Bassols, que és la meva directora de tesi, no, provo, que ja veuràs que ho fa...
Ho veure com una oportunitat, no?
Sí, exacte, saps? Diu que ja veuràs com ho entendràs bé i tal, i...
A veure, és més
Vull
fàcil...
dir que no és el mateix que anar a una conversa... No, vull dir que el vocabulari sempre és el mateix, sempre estàs donant voltes allà mateix. Vaig fer l'assignatura, la mateixa, al febrer. Diu, veuràs com hauràs sentit els mateixos dallonsis, seran les mateixes parts de l'assignatura, tal, i això doncs t'anirà bé doncs també. Clar, perquè quan anem a congressos, tio, que no m'entero de res.
És que costa, Vull dir, vulguis que no, especialment, jo que sé, a vegades...
I tots aquests nanos l'han estudiat a l'escola o a la universitat, però jo no.
Sí. No, i alguns que són estrangers, aquesta noia que ha parlat era nativa, era obvi, perquè parlava perfecte l'anglès.
El noi aquell que se sent al meu costat,
també,
aquell és metge, treballa, porta 3 anys a Holanda visquent.
Són gent que ja el fan servir contínuament, llavors, evidentment. Però, diguéssim, jo que no soc natiu i tal, clar, la meva pronunciació i tot això vulguis que no està afectada, i per tant estic segur que per tu i per...
És molt més fàcil d'entendre, evidentment.
Tothom com parles en anglès, en canvi com parlo en anglès no l'entens. Sí, a mi
evidentment.
Sí.
Bueno,
vinga doncs. Ens farem dilluns.